on the various bills on hand today, we therefore call to order the Committee on Cultural Communities, joint with the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming all the way, joining us through webcam or in person. So we're very, very grateful for your presence. We need your informed insight into the issues at hand. And since the public hearing last February 17, we suspended the hearing, hence a declaration of quorum is unnecessary. In the meantime, may I call on our secretary, our committee secretary, Attorney Dana Alberto, to acknowledge the presence of the resource persons and to remind all those present of our House rules here at the Senate for the Committee on Cultural Communities. This is our first ever by video conferencing, so let's bear with each other. Thank you. Dana, please.
Thank you, Senator Marcos. Good morning, everyone. The Committee on Cultural Communities would like to acknowledge the presence of our guests, from National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, Commissioner Boy Jennifer Pia Sibuglas, Ms. Maria Teresa A. Santos, Ms. Adrian Regine S. Dunuan, Mr. Pascual A. Pating Jr., from Commission on Human Rights, Attorney Erwin Caliba, Ms. Nina Belen, from Department of Education, Assistant Secretary J.H. Ambat, from Department of Justice, State Counsel Isa Rees P. Mendoza, from Department of Labor and Employment, Attorney Maria Karina P. Trevilla, from Philippine Commission on Women, Mr. Anastasio Lagumbay, from Stop the Discrimination Coalition, Mr. Wilner Papa, from Samahan ng Kabataang Katutubo at Moro ng Mindanao, Mr. Edward Abelardo, from Leonard Cheshire Disability Philippines Foundation, Inc., Dr. Maureen Eva Mata, and from Tuklas Katutubo, Samahan ng mga Katutubo sa Pilipinas, Datu Panguliman Jason Sibug. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. And did we already call the different private groups? Are they all represented?
Ma'am, I believe some did not confirm, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
And, we are still waiting, ma'am, for the sector of the Federation of Solo Parents Lose Women Inc. They confirmed attendance, ma'am. Probably they will be late for today's video conference.
Okay, that's fine. In any case, we have many resource persons here who are ready to help us with the 3 different bills pending. As you know, we have SBN 137 of Sani Angara, SBN 315 of Grace Poe, SBN 1214 of Joel Villanueva. And these all concern the same thing. These are all issues prohibiting discrimination on the basis of age, sex, civil status, color, economic status, ethnicity, medical condition, physical disability, political opinion or affiliation, race, religious belief, and providing sanctions and penalties therefore. So may I also state, Dana, that we are in possession of 4 position letters or in certain cases, position papers. I'd like first off to thank the NCIP for finally sending their position on the Kaliwa Dam project, as well as the ICA law, and as well as their position today for the Anti-Discrimination Law. So maraming salamat doon. And sa wakas magagawa natin ng paraan at committee report itong mga nakapending sa atin. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So Dana, who shall we call first in order of argument and of appearance in the laws concerned?
Your Honor, may we call on the NCIP first, Your Honor?
Okay, the NCIP, being in possession of your position paper together with those of the Transitional Justice, Human Rights and Rules of Law, the UP Asian Center, and the other position paper finally are received from the
From the CSC po, ma'am.
the
Civil Service Commission po.
yes, the Civil Service Commission. Sorry, they are all mixed up here, and there are quite a few papers. Yes, thank you. Plus the Civil Service Commission. Is there a representative from the Civil Service Commission, please?
Ma'am, they said
Much as we're in possession of you. Okay. Will the NCIP representative a state Jennifer Pia? I'm unable, but please.
Morning.
Uh, yes, please proceed. Please proceed. May we hear now from the NCIP? I think you submitted a position paper.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, mapiansalam kaniyo langon. Can you hear me, Senator?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you very well. I'm just unable to see your video, but please proceed.
Yeah, actually there's a problem with my signal since it's raining here. So, may problema talaga sa connection. But anyways, that's why I can't use my video as of the moment.
Okay lang. In any case, naririnig naman namin kayo.
Okay. Good morning, Honorable Senator Marcos. At the same time, the daughter of the great defender of the IP communities of Mindanao, the late President Ferdinand Marcos. He was really a close friend of my father. And during the time that there were a lot of IP rebels or datus, he was the only president who the PD 1414, whereby all the IP community leaders who were rebels that time secured the assistance of the government. We were able to empower our IP communities then against all the atrocities committed by the violators of our rights then. But anyways, good morning again.
Thank you very much for remembering.
Yeah, we always do. We always do. Opo. And so I would like to greet each and everyone also. Good morning. And may I request our representative from our Legal Affairs Office, Attorney Jillian, to state our position.
Thank you. Attorney Jillian, please, are you there?
Good morning. It's Attorney Adrian po from Legal Affairs Office.
Okay. Wala ka ring video, okay lang?
Okay lang po, ma'am.
Okay, please proceed.
The NCIP supports the Senate bills numbers 137, 315, and 1214, as well as the similar bills filed in the lower house, House Bill numbers 136, 4216, 4587, 4647, 4684, 5356, 5969, 6024, and 6098 on the Comprehensive Anti-Discrimination Act, as this will reinforce international covenants on the protection of human rights to which the Philippines is a signatory, and Republic Act 8371, or the Indigenous Peoples Rights Act of 1997.
Thank you,
Subsequently,
Attorney, if you will, go direct to the salient points, as we have quite a few resource persons today, and as you can see, our signal seems to be quite tentative.
yes, ma'am. Okay.
Sige, salamat.
We raised a few points lang naman po on the House bills, particularly the definition of Indigenous Peoples and the ICCs.
That's right.
We recommend that it be adopted in toto from the IPRA in section 3, particularly letter H of chapter 2. Another issue, another point raised is that we would like to also include in the bills the following provisions. To wit, the state shall ensure that information and educational campaigns on the rights of the ICC's IPs under RA 8371 and other related laws and culture sensitivity trainings are included in the programs of the government, government-owned and controlled corporations, private and public educational institutions, private companies, and other sectors to promote non-discrimination and diversity. It is also recommended that stiffer penalties be provided in the bills for any violation committed against ICC's IPs po. It is also recommended that
Attorney,
the
Attorney, sorry, if I may interrupt.
ma'am.
Are you perhaps you're referring to the sanctions imposed under the bills of Senator Angara and Senator Poe? Are you aware of the very serious penalties imposed under Senator Joel Villanueva?
Yes,
Yung
ma'am.
sinasabi ninyong magaan, baka yung sa akin kay Senator Angara at kay Senator Poe. Pero tignan rin ninyo yung kay Senator Joel for comparison. Kasi para sa akin, ang bigat din nung mga penalties na naroon.
Yes, ma'am. This pertains to Senate Bills 137 and Senate Bill 315 po.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. And also, it is recommended that NCIP should be part of the technical working group which shall draft the implementing IRR of the Anti-Discrimination Act. Also,
Okay.
it is recommended that that while the NCIP strongly supports the powers given to the CHR, there is a need to clarify the extent of the functions of CHR in relation to the NCIP's powers to conduct investigation on the basis of complaints filed by ICC's IPs against natural or juridical persons. Therefore, it is recommended that a provision setting forth a mechanism between CHR and NCIP be integrated in the bills. Those are our recommendations po, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much. Attorney Dunuan, I would like to ask about the CHR suggestion. Perhaps you can help us craft another provision to explicitly delineate the various roles of the CHR versus the NCIP, because I understand that in the past there's been some level of duplication or even conflict. So if you could help us, we'd be very, very grateful in this committee for a more explicit division of labor between the two agencies.
Yes, ma'am. We will surely help the committee in crafting a mechanism for this. Actually, ma'am, there is already an ongoing talks with CHR to come up with a mechanism on on IP rights violation on the filing of complaints. So maybe we can also integrate this this um, what we have been doing with CHR now to these bills po.
Thank you very much, Attorney. That would be very, very helpful. And Secretary, if you would, our Committee Secretary Dana, in the interest of fairness and hearing all those concerned, have we also called on the Commission on Human Rights for their opinion on this bill?
Yes, ma'am. We sent an invite, ma'am, and they are present today. Attorney Erwin Kaliba, ma'am, is present right now.
Yes, okay. Since the matter of the CHR has been raised, may we call on Mr. Kaliba of the CHR if you would like to comment on the suggestion of the NCIP that a better delineation of who comes first, who does what, and who imposes what sanctions between the NCIP and the Commission on Human Rights. Para maliwanag po.
Okay. Good morning, Madam Senator, and good morning to
Good
everyone.
morning.
Yeah, definitely we would want to work together with NCIP. We agree with the suggestion of Attorney Duluan coming from the NCIP to work to delineate the functions of the agencies, the Commission on Human Rights and NCIP. We're closely working together on IP issues, Madam Chair.
Yes, that's right. I'm aware of that because even in other issues, I've seen both of you work with Chairman Allen in tandem. So may I ask the CHR as well to please provide their own provisions or their own suggestions regarding this bill so that we can properly divide labor between the two agencies.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thanks very much. Yes, do you have any further comments in as much
Okay,
as we're
I'll read the comment, Madam Chair. Yeah. Good morning again to everyone. Good morning, Madam
yes,
Chair.
good morning. Sorry.
We, yeah. We really observe the discrimination coming from on vulnerable sectors, and this vulnerability to discrimination is even more pronounced for sectors that do not have a specific legislation that protect them against discrimination. This is true especially for members of LGBTQIA+ community, older persons, persons in lower socioeconomic statuses, and others. It is in this regard that the Commission fully supports the enactment of a comprehensive anti-discrimination law. In particular, we support a law that would help enforce the constitutional guarantee against discrimination by defining specific acts or omissions that constitute discrimination, as well as by defining positive acts by which both the state and non-state actors may promote equality and fight discrimination. This transcends mere penal legislation and takes a more holistic approach to truly reshaping societal attitudes. Considering that there are 3 bills on the subject, we recommend that they be consolidated with Senate Bill number 137, authored by Senator Sani Angara, to be used as the base document, as it is the most comprehensive in terms of coverage. The proposed roles of CHR, we observe that some may run the risk of overstepping the boundaries of its constitutional mandates. The proposed duties as follows may be best delegated to the Civil Service Commission, Ombudsman, DOJ, the courts, as they involve the imposition of an order to a government agency, which we believe may be beyond our powers as a National Human Rights Institute. The power to prosecute is also essentially one of the primordial executive functions, and the CHR is not an executive body. So to give the CHR that function may create a complication, Madam Chair. So these are the instances. May I be permitted to read, Madam Chair, what we are saying that may not be that may have some complications.
Yes, please. Please proceed. Yes, and if you could
Section
submit,
10.
and if you could submit as well the position paper
Yes,
to
ma'am.
the committee for our better perusal in the
This is
future.
just our initial statement po. Position paper we will be submitting later, Madam Chair.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so these are the following provisions which we find to have some complications. Section 10 of Senate Bill number 137, Section 8, Senate Bill 315, and Section 8, Paragraph D of Senate Bill 1214. It says to direct the officer concerned to take appropriate action against a public officer or employee at fault or who neglect to perform an act or discharge duty required under the law, and order revocation of license, removal from office or employment, suspension, demotion, fine, censure, or prosecution, and ensure compliance therewith. Another section would be Section 12 of Senate Bill 137, to impose a fine for every day that the act of discrimination has not ceased despite the issuance of a cease and desist order. Then we go to another section, which is Section 10 of Senate Bill 137, the issuance of legal and preventive measures, as well as provisional remedies, including general writs of injunction, restraining orders, status quo ante orders, cease and desist orders, protection orders, or such other orders to protect the life and security of persons, preserve evidence, protect properties, among others. And lastly, on Section 8 of Senate Bill 315, to investigate and prosecute on its own or on complaint by any person, acts, or omissions in violation of the law. Okay. However, Madam Chair, there are proposed duties which are as follows. These are already mandates. These are mandates that the CHR can and is already implementing under other
I'm
laws.
sorry, Mr. Kaliba. Yung sa yun sa SBN 315, aling section yon? Sorry. Just to backtrack a bit.
Investigation, ma'am, Section 8 of 315.
I see. Okay, that's 315. That's Senator Grace's version.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Please proceed. Sorry.
Yeah, so these are the functions, Madam Chair, that the CHR can and is already implementing under other laws. Section 8, Senate Bill 137, that is administering the fund collected from a criminal case for the assistance of victims of discrimination. We also agree with Section 10 to investigate motu proprio or on complaint by any person, any acts or omissions in violation of the law. Then Section 8, Paragraph D of Senate Bill 1214, to investigate and recommend the filing of a complaint against any state actor violating the law. Another last two, Section 8 of SBN 315, to commence legal action in the regular court if the CHR has reasonable cause to believe that any person or group is engaged in discrimination and under the law. And lastly, Madam Chair, on Section 13 of SBN 137, Section 11 SBN 315, and Section 11 SBN 1214. They all say the same, to promulgate the necessary IRR with other government agencies. We're waiting to do that, Madam Chair. On the other provisions of the bills at present, the Commission is in the process of reviewing them and preparing our specific recommendations. We will submit, Madam Chair, our position paper on the draft legislation as soon as possible. Also, we would like to request to be, if a technical working group that would work on the consolidation of the bills, we would be willing to be part and would like to request to be part of the technical working group. That is all for now, Madam Chair. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaliba, and to our CHR. May I inform you, in as much as you mentioned the LGBTQ+, that together with Senator Risa Ontiveros, I filed the SOGI bill. However, as you know, it met all kinds of controversy and dissent from not only the public sector, but as well as the private and media sectors. Hence, in the meantime, this has come to my committee, and I am certain that in one way or the other, our LGBTQ communities will also be benefited by a universal anti-discrimination bill. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, we're glad you supported SOGI. We also support both. But if comprehensive is easier to be passed, then so be it, Madam Chair. Sino pong mauna?
Oo nga, yun, ganun na nga talaga. We'll take what we can at this point. And I think you're also aware, for the benefit of the group, that we have Executive Order 100 from the President that was part of the fallout of the SOGI bill, in which President Duterte declared that there would be a diversity and inclusion program with an interagency committee under the office of the president. So the president himself took direct action. And if you will notice, Davao City, under his watch as mayor, was one of the first LGUs to promulgate a diversity, inclusion, and anti-discrimination bill. So I believe that this bill should get clear sailing and will be much less controversial than the Soji. Inshallah, sabi nga. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you po.
Okay, salamat. And now we call Dole. I think if there's a representative from Dole. Dina, sinong pinadala ng Dole?
Ano? Attorney Trivia.
Good morning po. The Honorable Chair, Senator Amy Marcos, as well as all the participants in today's Senate hearing. Gusto po, ma'am. Okay. The DOLE po, through the Bureau of Workers with Special Concerns, support the intention of the bills to provide legal protection to persons who are vulnerable to various acts of discrimination. This is a welcome development since the bills take cognizance of various forms of discrimination on account of age, race, ethnic origin, religious belief, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, disabilities, HIV status, health status, social status, language, physical features, and other forms of discrimination by providing measures to deter discriminatory acts and protect victims of discrimination. Now, this is Dole's specific comments on the various bills we are discussing right now. On the definition of discrimination on account of employment, all three bills, more or less, share the same definition of discrimination on account of employment. Hence, we concur with the definitions provided by these bills. On unlawful acts of discrimination, denial of right to work, the bill contains more or less similar provisions on discriminatory acts regarding employment. Hence, we concur with the provisions stated in the draft bills. Moreover, it is also recommended that these three bills, as mentioned by the honorable gentleman from the Commission on Human Rights, to consolidate all these bills, because in essence, they have the same or similar features. However, we wish to note the following. Number one, in terms of age discrimination in employment, please note that the Philippines is already implementing RA 10911 entitled An Act Prohibiting Discrimination Against Any Individual in Employment on Account of Age and providing penalties therefore. This act promotes equal employment opportunity for everyone on the basis of their merits, regardless of their age. Number two, since the bill contemplates of a comprehensive measure to address all forms of discrimination, it may be worth considering to create a specialized government agency. Na-mention na po ito kanina ni Senator. And clothed Executive Order 100, clothed with authority, jurisdiction over complaints pertaining to discrimination, on programs to promote non-discrimination and diversity. As to Section 9, programs to promote non-discrimination and diversity under Senate Bill number 137 and similar provisions of other SBs, directing select agencies, including DOLE, to take the necessary steps in implementing said section. We recommend that an interagency technical committee composed of representatives of concerned government agencies, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders shall be constituted and shall act as an advisory or recommendatory body on establishing developmental programs that will promote non-discrimination and management of diversity. With regard to the provision under Section 8, redress mechanism for discrimination of Senate Bill number 1214, directing the DOLE to draft rules and regulations which will enhance grievance mechanisms to address discriminatory practices in workplaces. Again, we recommend that a technical working committee composed of concerned agencies and concerned officers and attached agencies of the department involved in the formulation of standards and procedures relative to settling disputes through preventive mediation, and facilitation of labor management cooperation be created, which will formulate guidelines in enhancing existing grievance mechanisms of establishment. Finally, on the implementing rules, all three bills more or less direct the same agencies that will draft the IRR, once signed into law. However, we recommend po the inclusion of the National Council on Disability Affairs into the composition, since this is the lead agency mandated to direct the course of program development for persons with disability and delivery of services to this sector. As to the other provisions of the bill, like access to services and goods, use of facilities and utilities, political inclination, health concerns, military and law enforcement practices, among others, we leave it to the other agencies which have the mandate to comment on such matters. We submit, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director Sevilla. And may I just inquire, the interagency committee that will be recommendatory is merely recommendatory on capacity building and other training programs and will not recommend prosecution or go through the charges. Tama ba yun?
It's recommendatory, yes, ma'am. That's right.
Oo, kasi sa totoo lang,
Yes po.
yes, carry on, sorry.
We leave it to the mandate of these agencies, ma'am.
Hindi kasi sa totoo lang medyo malabo yung prosecution process eh. Hindi namin maintindihan kung ano yung quantum of evidence required. For example, tapos san pipila, sino magsasala ng mga complaints, medyo hindi ganun kaklaro. So I was wondering if the interagency committee that you were suggesting would also handle the various complaints involved.
Yes, ma'am. What we envision, ma'am, is on the administrative complaints. Yun lang po ang mandate po kasi ng DOLE. So,
Yeah, that's correct.
with respect to the criminal aspect, we leave it to the law enforcement agencies.
Yes, but will this interagency committee be prepared to recommend the filing of charges, for example?
Yes, ma'am. This
Oo.
can be done.
I had another question also. The employment and management reviewers of these bills have commented that companies have different standards and preferences recognized by our laws and our constitution. So, dapat may shared responsibility, hindi po ba, between employers and employees. Just playing the devil's advocate, does this not violate or constitute overbreadth? In the sense that it may be difficult to determine what is legally permissible in the workplace and what is not. It has been said from time to time that what the employer or the offending party may consider a mere statement of fact will be offensive to the person who hears it. Will there be incidents when overbreadth might be complained about because the law is too vague or too broad, such that any statement regarding, for example, our gay citizens or the LGBTQ plus community not using the proper pronoun of he or she or the correct gender with which that employee identifies may be considered offensive. Ano po sa tingin ninyo? Pwede ba nating i-define ng masinop na masinop para hindi na natin maging problema yung overbreadth at yung mga misunderstanding na nauuwi sa kaso?
Yes po, we have sufficient basis under the Labor Code of the Philippines as amended. If I may cite po Article 3, we are mandated to state shall afford protection to labor, promote full employment, and provide. We use the equal work opportunity po. It's our anchor. And it says equal work opportunity regardless of sex, race, creed, and regulate the relations between workers and employers. So I think, ma'am, we have a sufficient basis under the Constitution to support our position on this issue po.
That's right. But do you have any language? We're all aware of the Constitution as well as the Labor Code, but do you have further language that could help us define the role of the employer and his duty to protect and allow all employees of any color, stripe, or gender?
We will submit po, Your Honor. We will consult with our sector so that we can come up with the proper formulation po.
Yes, thank you. I think that on many occasions, our LGBTQ friends have complained about this, and the workplace has not been free of such discrimination. On the other hand, our employers also have the prerogative of hiring those most appropriate and competent for the jobs at hand. So we have to balance this interest in the law. So
Yes.
tulungan na lang po ninyo kami. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you, Your Honor.
Secretary Dana, has the CHED sent a representative? Andito na, or else we proceed with someone else?
None yet, ma'am.
Okay, so let's go on. Ang DOJ ba nagpadala ng kinatawan?
Yes, Attorney Aiza Mendoza po.
Okay, at least may video si Attorney Mendoza. Please proceed.
Good morning, ma'am. Can you hear me po?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you for inviting the department, ma'am, to join this meeting. Unfortunately, we are still studying the bills that we are discussing today, so we will just submit the position paper as soon as it is finalized and signed.
Okay, given the headwinds that the SOGI bill met, we are in a bit of a hurry with this bill. So kung maaari, mag-submit na lang kayo kahit hindi masyadong copious. We really need your input on the filing of charges and prosecution thereafter. Kasi hindi masyado pang maliwanag yung NCIP, yung role ng CHR, yung DOLE, at yung iba't iba pang ahensya para hindi tayo magulo at hindi malito. Whoever it is that may be seeking redress, who has a grievance, dapat madali at klaro yung kanyang proseso. Doon ko hihingin yung tulong ninyo, Attorney Mendoza, please. Kahit yun lang.
Got it, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, noted po. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ma'am,
The Philippine Commission on Women, Dana, nandito ba? Ay, there we go. Sandy Montano, is that correct?
yes po.
Yes, Dana, were you going to say something?
Senator Villanueva, ma'am, sent his speech in connection with the comprehensive anti-discrimination bill po. And he is requesting, ma'am, that it will be inserted into the records of this hearing po.
Yes, of course, we will insert it into the records. And if there is time remaining, we will try and go over the salient points. But I'm not in possession, so you'll have to be doing the summary for that. So may I call on Sandy Montano, is that correct? Of the Philippine Commission on Women, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Senator Aimee, for including us. Yes, I'm just new in the commission as the chairperson, but we will be sending our position within next week. So, in this case, we would like to really participate actively with our stand for the Philippine Commission on Women, especially on gender and development. I'll be sending to you our statement in a while. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you very much. I think it's important to get the outlook of women. I think on many occasions, women in the workplace have confronted their own specific issues. And I recall as a congressman, we had a great deal of trouble over the extended maternity leaves. Dahil wala nang gustong kumuha ng babae at napakamahal naman, hindi magtatrabaho ng ilang buwan. At siguro ang kinakailangan, magkaroon ng parallel legislation for parental leave, pati yung tatay. Dapat may leave din, para pumasas naman ang laro. Isa yon. I don't know what your position was kasi part of the discrimination derives from the sheer expense of hiring a female who may at a certain point in time become pregnant.
Yeah, I agree with you, Senator Ivy, on this, kasi naging parang naging mas na-discriminate ang mga babae when it comes to this, no, lalo na nung nagkaroon ng expanded, maternal leave. So, imbis na i-hire sila, naging na, parang second-class citizen na lang. And then, of course, yung sharing ng paternal leave, also, we would like to extend that because, the nurturing of the new, bagong panganak yung asawa mo, tapos may baby kayong bago. So the changes in the family orientation should also be a collaborative effort of the husband and wife.
Yes, that's right. I think the Senate has just passed on third reading the Solo Parents Act, also expanding the benefits for solo parents. This hearing, like every other hearing in the Senate, is conducted in aid of legislation. So, Secretary, please take note that there is a recommendation to expand maternity leave, perhaps not as long as it is today, but to expand it to parental leave, including the father, so that instead of having the reverse effect of discriminating against women, it will in fact finally equalize or level the employment playing field. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Montano.
I agree with that because instead of just saying the maternity leave, it should be parental leave because it should be a shared responsibility of both husband and wife or of both partners. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you very much. Kakampi kayo. At ipa-file ko yan agad-agad. Kasi alam ko yung problema eh. Solo parent, working females, we all have the same drama. Okay, so the UP Center for Women and Gender Studies, I believe that I have a position paper here from the UP Asian Center. I don't think this is the same group from UP. Secretary Dana, please.
Not the same group, ma'am.
The same, kasi yung
It is not the
other,
same po. It is not the same.
it's not
It's
the same
different
because
group, yes.
that's right, because it's the UP Asian Center. It's not the UP Center for Women and Gender. Is there a representative from the Women and Gender Studies Department?
Well, no one confirmed.
Okay, that being the case, we go through the UP Asian Center's observations muna. Narito naman. And I think their concern was development aggression that took place against the katutubo or yung ating mga IPs na dahil sa pagnanais na na umunlad at makapagtatag ng iba't ibang infrastruktura katulad ng Kaliwa Dam, yung Chico River, at yung iba't iba pang Balog-Balog Dam. Marami tayong naririnig, nasa balita lagi, na kung minsan nadadali yung ancestral domain at yung pinagtatamnan at tinitirhan ng ating mga katutubo. So I think this was a concern of the UP Asian Center, and this is well taken because this committee has heard on many occasions exactly these things occurring. In fact, I have in my possession NCIP's position regarding the Kaliwa Dam and the complaints of the Dumagats living there. So, eto nga, we are reviewing this, and the penalties also, there was a comment here about the penalties. Also, there's a comment here about the free and prior informed consent. So, importante yun because that is a procedure that the NCIP imposes and requires, and that should be complied with at every turn. So, we now proceed if the National Youth Commission or any other youth group is here to represent. Dina, may kabataan ba rito? Kasi disqualified na ako na. Dati pwede pang kabataang barangay eh. Ngayon katandaan eh.
Yes. Ma'am, the Samahan ng Kabataang Katutubo at Moro ng Mindanao, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Edward Abelardo po.
Okay, Mr. Edward Abelardo. Okay. Katutubo at Moro ng Mindanao. Okay. Kayo naman ang magsalita. Oo, may Do you have a position po? Yes, Mr. Edward Abelardo of the Kabataang Katutubo. Can you hear me? Can you please proceed?
Um, he already turned on his camera. Mr. Abelardo, do you hear us? Uh-uh. Mr. Abelardo, I think the microphone of your headset is not working. Ma'am, from... Okay.
Yes, we keep trying. We keep trying, Secretary Dana, for Mr. Abelardo. But in the meantime, shall we proceed with the next guest? Who else is here?
Ma'am, for the IPs, ma'am, we have Dato Panguliman Jason Cebu.
Okay. Datu, are you able to state your position now? Mauna na po kayo.
Thank you, Senator Amy.
Okay. What do you think of these bills? Is this an important development for the IPs and the katutubo? Talaga bang nadi-discriminate ang ating mga kabataan at katutubo sa workplace, sa edukasyon, sa iba't ibang pagkakataon sa buhay?
Sige, Senator Amy. First, we would like to thank the Philippine Senate, especially the Committee on Cultural Communities headed by Senator Amy Marcos, for giving us the opportunity of voicing out the concerns of one of the most vulnerable and marginalized sectors in the country, the Indigenous Peoples. The organization fully support the initiative of the good senator and the three bills being mentioned to finally put an end to this culprit on discrimination among Indigenous peoples. With regards to the three bills, here is our stand on the following bills. First, the intention of SBN 137, 315, and 1214 to prohibit discrimination on the basis of ethnicity are all the same. But how do we guarantee the protection of the Indigenous peoples in the mainstream media, internet, Facebook, radio, televisions, newspapers? In our suggestion, we need to establish mechanisms in ensuring that these media outlets does not do the same, and it being committed, how does the media or the person committed or stated it will be penalized. Second, the discrimination among Indigenous peoples does not only center in employment, but it is so comprehensive that it happens also at school, hospital, workplace, and other spaces. We need to provide comprehensive protection clause in all these environment and the other sector of Indigenous people, such as the children, women, differently abled, and other IP sectors. For example, in schools, IP communities should fully implement IP education programming, and that the language used should be in their mother tongue. IP teachers should be trained and be provided privileges to ensure that IP education is fully implemented in their ancestral domain. School materials such as books should undergo proper consultation with NCIP and the communities affected to correct the misinformation shared at school, and even correct the spelling and pronunciation of the tribes like Bilaan, Tiboli with apostrophe. It must be corrected at first. Birth certificate, statistics office, and other forms of identification, indigenous affiliation should be included to identify them of their IP origin, not always the religion, but also their IP religious faith or tribal faith, the indigenous affiliation of the individual. Also, knowing that our Christian and Muslim brothers are regarded of their special non-working holidays in the calendar, the Indigenous peoples should also be given the opportunity to be granted a non-working holiday, such as in the Indigenous Peoples Day, so they can practice their traditions and culture while they are at school or while they are at work. Regular special non-working holiday dedicated to the Indigenous peoples will serve to elevate the importance that is given to them and will serve as a yearly opportunity to celebrate their past and continued participation in the society. Government programs such as health services, livelihood, and others should be culturally sensitive to tailor fit to the needs of the indigenous peoples, not the design provided by outside groups, but will be decided upon among by the indigenous peoples. Also, we are also suggesting reporting mechanisms should be established for IP communities to report their grievances with regards to discrimination and should be centralized, not bureaucratic. If this will be pursued, what will be the role of National Commission on Indigenous Peoples and the Indigenous Peoples Council or the Indigenous Peoples structures identified in the ancestral land as the mandated office and of the indigenous peoples and the authorized tribal leaders if discrimination will take place? If they will be involved in settling the dispute, it should also be good to recognize their right to self-governance and determination. And also, if technical working group be formed, civil society organization of indigenous people should also be involved in drafting of the IRR. So that is our stand as an organization. It's a shortcut stand because I will no longer read the whole position paper. But we are hoping, Senator Amy Marcos, that the Committee on Indigenous Peoples will consider our position paper because we truly care that our cultural heritage and the indigenous brothers and sisters, we can start from the integrity of the indigenous peoples' identity by guaranteeing the protection of the indigenous peoples' valuable role and importance and uphold their dignity to continue our journey towards building an inclusive and culturally sensitive society. That's all. Thank you, Senator Amy Marcos, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sibug. And certainly we are aware of the travails of the IP communities, even here in my province of Ilocos Norte. Out of 23 municipalities, I have 10 that are actually IP in the Cordillera and the Ilocos Mountain Ranges. So this discrimination persists, unfortunately, despite our efforts. And as the president himself has repeatedly stated, the historic injustice against the IP as well as Mindanao should be righted at last in our lifetime. So that being said, may I call on, I think I saw you, Tonito, earlier from DepEd. I'm not certain because our messaging is so poor here. Secretary Dana, nariyan ba yung DepEd? Parang nakita ko sila kanina
Yes
eh.
po. Nandyan po si Yusek Tonisito Umali po.
That's right. Yusek, please, suking-suki ng ating Senate sa iba't ibang committee. Maybe Yusek, you can respond to Dato Sibug's statement that it is not just in the workplace, but even in schools where the mother tongue and the educational material continues to be not utilized or there are inadequate materials in the indigenous languages.
Ma'am, I think Yusek Umali stepped out, ma'am, of the...
Okay, but I think there's somebody else from DepEd.
ASEC GH Ambat.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
the
all right.
representative of DepEd.
All right,
So,
Yusek
good morning.
Ambat.
Good morning.
Good
Madam
morning,
Chair.
good morning. Yes, like that to Sibug, I'm personally aware of the failure to use the mother tongue because in many cases there are not enough trained teachers and there simply aren't any educational materials in the IP languages. In our case, we set up the first Tingyan school in the country and we've had to more or less produce our own material with great difficulty. So DepEd, do you have any programs facilitating and promoting the mother tongue of the IPs and the educational materials in the same?
All right, ma'am. We have what we call the Indigenous Peoples Education Program. This was intensified and strengthened since the last administration, but we are happy to report to you, madam, that it is being implemented now in 16 regions. With our 109 divisions, ma'am, ensuring that our IP learners are given contextualized IP education. So, ma'am, the ongoing major initiatives include establishment of partnership mechanisms. DepEd has established mechanisms for engagement and partnership with 170 indigenous cultural communities in 290 communities nationwide. We have contextualization of the curriculum and development of learning materials. More than 700 contextualized lesson plans have been developed in collaboration with the 60 ICCs located in over 200 communities nationwide. We have capacity
Yes, Yusek
building for-
Ambat, sorry to interrupt, and please forgive my ignorance, but
Sure.
the DepEd is very creative with the new jargon. What does contextualize mean?
Ma'am, yung pong magre-respond, something that they would respond to, the lessons that we have kasi is developed in most central office, and we want our regions, we want our communities to be able to relate to it. So our lessons, ma'am, especially for the IP communities, are contextualized to their daily realities, ma'am.
So, ibig sabihin, sinusulat ng mga regional head, hindi from the bottom up, hindi nanggagaling sa Pasig, ganun ba yun? O sa Ortigas?
Manggagaling siya ng Pasig, pero ma'am, pag ibinaba po ito sa divisions, regions and the divisions, they will consult, ma'am, the indigenous cultural communities there. And yun po, from there, the lessons will be made para po mas makarelate po at magamit po talaga sa pang-araw-araw po na pagkatuto at pagsasanay po ng ating mga estudyante na IP.
Yung mga IP natin, si Dato Sibug, aware ba kayo nitong programa ng IP Educational Program kung saan pinipilit natin na ma-contextualize nga itong mga lesson plan at iba pang gamit? Naka-participate na kayo sa ganyan? Nakilahok na kayo ng ganyan?
From 2004 to Class Katutubo, Samahan ng mga Katutubo sa Pilipinas, has been collaborating with the Department of Education on indigenizing the education in IP communities, particular schools at the ancestral domains. But there's still a need to really strengthen the program in the grassroots level. But I commend the DepEd for starting to initially doing this in their in some of the communities, but there are still challenges that we need the government's effort to really strengthen the program of IP education, especially those in the remote communities.
That's correct. Thank you very much. So at least you got a testimonial, Yusek Ambat from Dato Sibug. I can also attest to that. They've been very, very assiduous with the Tingyans, with the different northern tribes. Yun nga lang, kung minsan naaawa ko sa mga mestra, lalo sa Mindanao, sa isang klase, isang dosena yata yung lingwaheng dapat pag-aralan. Napakahirap talaga.
Ma'am, if this is where we will be needing to be working together with the communities and even with the Senate, ma'am, in ensuring na meron tayong pondo sa pagpapatuloy po nitong programa natin for indigenous peoples. Just to
how much money does the IP education program have right now? DepEd has a huge budget.
I do understand that for 2020, I have not checked kung nabawasan siya, but I think it's within the range of, if not 130 million to 200 million, ma'am.
Kasi dinami-dami ng tribes natin, baka talagang hindi kaya yan. So perhaps what we could do is you could update me on the details of the 2020 budget because as you know, much of it has been realigned due to the COVID pandemic. And also within the month, sa susunod na buwan actually, magkakaroon na ng pagsusuri ng 2021 budget. It will be important that we have your input given that this program impinges directly on the bills at hand.
Yes.
So you said any other comments regarding discrimination in the schools?
All right, ma'am, overall, what we would like to say is that the Department of Education's mandate is to protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education. We recognize that the right to education is a human right. So we are supportive, ma'am, of the bills ensuring that no one will be denied the right to education based on the premises that's laid down on the bills, based on their age, based on their religion, based on their ethnic origin. In fact, ma'am, in the past years, we have implemented guidelines within the department, such as our child protection policy, to ensure that our children will have a safe environment and they're protected against violence, against bullying. And you do understand, Madam Chair, that our kids get bullied for the differences that they may have with other children. We also have our gender responsive basic education policy. Yung po aming gender responsive basic education policy, ito po yung nagsasabi na to mainstream gender in our policies, programs, and activities, including in the way that we craft our learning resources. So yung ating po mga educational textbooks should be gender sensitive also, should take into consideration the differences that we have as a people. And on top of that, Madam Chair, no, we have been addressing yung po tinatawag na mga inequalities and disparities in education through our programs such as the IPED, Madaris, MTB, MLE, and we also have, Madam Chair, our special education program to ensure that all learners will have access to quality basic education, Madam Chair. We will be sending our full position within the week, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you very much, Yusek. And may I just inquire, as a matter of information, have the Mindanao schools caught up in the national scoring efforts of the DepEd? Kasi parati silang nahuhuli eh. Sa quality, nabanggit mo yung quality, it's my firm belief that whoever has less in life should certainly have more in education. Ang problema, mukhang nahuhuli pa rin ang mga eskwelahan sa Mindanao, lalong-lalo na sa mga remote areas kung saan nakatira ang ating mga IPs. Sa madaling sabi, yung magagaling na eskwela nasa poblasyon pa rin eh, pero sa tuktok ng bundok, sa mga baybayin at isla, bulok pa rin daw ang mga eskwelahan. Hindi pa ba nakakahabol ang mga ito?
Ma'am, ito po ma'am ang parte ng tinatawag naming sulong edukalidad. If you may remember, noon pong lumabas ang PISA scores, na doon po natin nalaman ang kalidad ng ating edukasyon at
That's right. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes. We
the
are
rural and the hinterland split versus the sentro.
Ma'am, you would be pleased to know that hindi po lahat ng nasa urban areas ay matataas ang scores. Like there are areas, take for example, I think Baguio City and some divisions in the Cordillera na mataas ang score nila sa PISA, yung mga mountainous regions. I will get back to you. I will check, ma'am. We'll have to check kung ano po yung results in Mindanao. But we are analyzing itong resulta pong ito dahil nga po we are surprised that there are areas na hindi po urban pero mga nasa bundok but they scored high, and we want to learn also from them. Ano bang ginawa nila? Ano bang klaseng pagtuturo? Bakit mas mataas ang
Yes, Yusek Ambat, however, those sudden points of excellence and light are the exception that prove the rule. That by and large, medyo mahina talaga yung mga eskwelahan sa rural areas. May exceptional talaga. Wala ka talagang magagawa. May talagang nagpupumiklas, naghihirap, nagsasakripisyo. Higit sa lahat, may magaling talaga na teacher. Pero ang laging daing halimbawa ng mga Ilocano sa Mindanao, kawawang-kawawa daw yung mga eskwelahan nila. Bakit walang affirmative action sa mga bulok na eskwela dyan?
Ma'am, ang affirmative action po na gagawin po namin yung kung narinig niyo na po ang ating Last Mile Schools program, ito po ay nabanggit po ni Presidente sa State of the Nation address niya na isisiguro na i-connect ang mga last mile schools na to para yung mga eskwelahan na halos nagigibana na hindi pumapasok halos sa mga estudyante natin dahil baka madaganan po sila ng mga ceiling at wala po mga libro. Uunahin po yung mga yan. Yes, ma'am.
Pero sorry pero tulad ng DepEd Commons, yung last mile schools, nababalitaan ko lang sa DepEd. Di ko kasi nakikita yan sa ibaba eh.
Opo, ma'am, this year po yan na proyekto, medyo na-stall lang po ng kaunti dahil po sa COVID, but with with the pronouncement of the President, this will push through. But anyway, kasama na rin po dyan, ma'am, yung ating tinatawag natin na parte pa rin po ng sulong edukalidad yan na sabay-sabay po, we will give focus especially on the regions na medyo nakuhuli in terms of teacher training. Napaka-importante po na masiguro natin na ang mga teachers natin sa mga lugar na yon ay pantay ang kaalaman at kakayanan sa pagtuturo. Kapantay po siya, no? Kumbaga, it's in LGUs that have large support from their local chief executives. Yun po, ma'am.
Thank you very much from DepEd. I'd like to raise another point, Secretary Dana, that Datu Sibug mentioned. The first one he mentioned, actually, which I find most interesting, and which is not addressed by any of these bills, and that is the media discrimination, the unsavory or discriminatory portrayal of IPs, PWDs, seniors, women, LGBTQ, and other sectors mentioned. Would you like to elaborate on that, Datu? And do you have any proposals so that we can rectify the same?
Thank you for mentioning it, Senator. Yes, in these modern times, Facebook is one of the media that is becoming a venue for all the people here in the Philippines. And we have received report. In fact, in my position paper that I submitted with Attorney Dana, I mentioned cases of discrimination such as calling names of Manobos, Blaan, Bilaan, taga-Kaulo, Kaulo. Even there are situations that IPs are being associated with sleepers and others in through FB. And we are hoping that for that cases, we have not received any actions from LGUs or any other institutions, though we believe that NCIP is also doing their best to really prevent this discrimination to happen. But there are cases that still people who are committing discrimination in internet and even in media, they're still they got away of the situation. There were no penalties. There were no cases submitted against them, and we are hoping that it must an action should be really done to really prevent discrimination among indigenous peoples using the internet or using website or newspaper or even radio or televisions.
Sorry, thank you. That's right. I'm very aware of that, particularly in Facebook. It's very often quite vicious and nasty. So, are there any proposals? Perhaps they can be included amongst the different ways the crime can be committed. Secretary Dana, any thoughts? Siguro pwedeng ipasok yan yung media portrayal kasi wala yan sa mga bills, pero in fact it's very demeaning and discouraging.
Yes, ma'am.
Sige, pwede natin ipasok yan. Thank you for your valuable insight.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Is Edward Abelardo also ready to speak now for the youth?
A while ago, ma'am, he sent me a message that he is already okay to make a statement. Miss Eder, yung nasa camera.
Ayan. Okay, Edward. Ayan, mukhang i-unmute mo na lang. I-unmute mo because I don't hear you. Ayun. Okay, nawala na yung video.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
I want to public hearing. Here in Moro, Muslim in Mindanao, as I said, samahan ng at Moro sa Mindanao. There are many actually discrimination that we experience in our everyday life. For example, this
Dana, Edward, I'm really sorry, but you're breaking up and I'm not able to follow.
Yeah. Right, ma'am, per the screen it says low bandwidth.
Oo nga eh.
There's a problem with the bandwidth. So
Si-
probably, ma'am, we can just ask him
May I
to
request, Edward, if you can submit your statement to the committee and it will be considered a part of the record in as much as we are unable to decode the audio at this point. So sorry about that. Are there any further resource persons, Secretary Dana, who are here ready?
Yes, ma'am. We have Mr. Wilnor Papa of the Stop the Discrimination Coalition, also representing Coalition of Services for the Elderly.
Okay, may we invite him to make the statement?
Mr. Wilnor Papa?
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much, Comsec Dana, and thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to represent the STDC and our basically our support no for the proposed measures. Just a short one lang po, yung STDC or the Stop the Discrimination Coalition.
Sorry, if I may, Mr. Papa.
Yes,
I'm a little bit confused. You're representing the Stop Discrimination
Yes.
Coalition or the Amnesty International?
We're both po kasi we are the secretariat, co-chair of the Stop the Discrimination Coalition.
Okay, that's fine. Please proceed.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. We were founded in 2015 po, yung Stop the Discrimination Coalition, and this is a coalition that is composed of Indigenous Peoples, LGBTQIA groups, women, youth, older persons, urban and rural poor, religious groups, labor, human rights, and we are also supported by the United Nations Development Program, the Commission on Human Rights, and the Equal Rights Trust. We are basically a coalition that works to promote yung comprehensive anti-discrimination bill, and then we are also a coalition that primarily works to educate people so that mawala po yung culture of discrimination dito sa Pilipinas. We discourage advocacies that are very, very parochial in nature out within our group. And ang paniwala po kasi namin ay walang mas discriminated at walang least discriminated. Pare-pareho po ang nararamdaman ng lahat o nararanasan ng lahat. At in short, wala pong iwanan sa aming grupo. We would like to commend the committee for this hearing and pushing for the comprehensive anti-discrimination measures po, no? All three of them. Acts of discrimination, we believe, while they don't go unnoticed, they are rarely dealt with and seen as normal. Kaya nga po, palagi na lang naming naririnig no, ng mga sectors within the Stop the Discrimination Coalition na okay lang yan, hayaan nyo na lang, ganyan na kasi talaga no? Wala na tayong magagawa dyan. And we refuse to believe in those quick retorts no, by those who do acts of discrimination or who are okay with discrimination. At ang paniwala po namin, the effects of these acts of discriminations are very profound, as the stigma usually lasts a lifetime for the victims. And because they were denied of their basic rights, it affects not just their lives, but the people and the communities that surround them as well. We also support the bill's attempt to be as comprehensive as possible in terms of scope of the prohibited grounds for discrimination. We in the Stop the Discrimination Coalition believe that no one should be left behind, as I've said, no, that everyone should be treated fairly and given the same opportunities, especially in the areas mentioned in the policy proposals, yung basic public services, education, employment, and reasonable accommodation. We also support the bill's attempt to be proactive in combating discrimination. We believe that it is advantageous for any proposed mechanism not to be just reactive and rely on after the fact scenarios. We believe that proactive steps are needed to foster a culture of non-discrimination, particularly information and education in the public and private sphere. Those things are as important as making those who commit discrimination accountable. We also would like to tell the committee to please just take one particular note in consideration lang po, no. Palagi naming naririnig sa ganitong mga hearings, no, na pagka hinayaan nating ma-recognize ang rights ng ibang sector ay mababiolate naman ang rights namin. Palagi merong humihirit ng ganon. And we just like to remind everyone na hindi po totoo yan, no, na ang pag-recognize at pag-protect sa rights ng iba ay hindi po pag-violate sa rights naman ng ibang sector. Naniniwala kami sa intersectionality of discrimination. Naniniwala kami na lahat tayo ay pare-pareho ang nararanasan pag na-discriminate at importanteng ma-recognize po ito ng ating committee. So, last na lang po, we would like to express our desire to be part of the technical working group. And then we will be sending our position paper either later today or po. Yun na po, and again, thank you for giving us the opportunity to air our support for the bills.
Salamat, Mr. Papa. Hihingi na lang ako ng tulong dun sa scope of the offenses. Yung iba't ibang offenses, kung meron pa kayong naisipin, katulad ni Tato Sibug, na yung media portrayals magiging part and parcel din ng discriminatory acts. Kung ano yung discriminatory acts, kasi sabi nga ninyo, it's subversive, pervasive, and all-encompassing, and unfortunately, its effects are lifelong and profound. So, kung makakatulong po kayo dun sa scope ng offenses, malaking bagay po yun. And I'd like your advisement also on the penalties. Kasi Amnesty International kayo, double book kayo. Some have commented that in fact the penalties in Senator Villanueva's bill are too heavy, as well as the administrative sanctions. Medyo umangal na yung civil service na labis-labis naman daw. So kung maaari, silipin na lang po ninyo yung mga penalty kung ano talaga yung angko.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We will be helping you out with that. And dun sa penalties po, we're studying it kasi there are a lot of studies in different parts of the world that have implemented comprehensive anti-discrimination policies na nakita nila na hindi effective yung very stringent and very harsh penalties.
Tama.
I-implement ng anti-discrimination law. In fact,
Tama, it's been read to be counterproductive in many regimes.
Opo. So yung mga administrative sanctions, those are more acceptable, no? Yung mga fines, and they see that yung and most of the bills have this naman, yung parang rehabilitation dun sa mga companies, no? Yung pagdaan nila sa isang proseso para maintindihan nila kung bakit sila nagkamali, bakit mali ang acts of discrimination ay mas nakakatulong kaysa yung ipakulong, lalo na yung iba kasi gusto ipakulong ng matagal yung mga perpetrators.
Tama. Sa totoo lang, yung public shaming na ginagawa ng kabataan sa Facebook, yun talagang may epekto. Talagang napapahiya yung gumawa ng discriminatory act. Pero syempre, gawa natin ng paraan, pati yung civil service would like to delineate between grave, less grave, and light, depending on the offense committed. And we would like to be fair and equitable in that area as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you po.
Dana, sino pang tatawagin natin? Yung mga grupo ng Pride, matagal na kasi silang nagtestigo doon sa Soji Bill. Meron pa bang representative dito na hindi pa naririnig?
Si Doc Maureen Eva Mata po. From Leonard Cheshire Disability Philippines.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Please. Yes. Ms. Mata, please proceed.
Yes, hello po. Good morning po, Madam Chair. So I am one of the Board of Trustees po ng Leonard Cheshire Disability Philippines Foundation. And yung group din po namin ay member din po ng STC, pero I'm representing now 4 and with 4 persons with disabilities po. Although,
Okay.
I just browsed all the 3 Senate bills po, if we may be able to submit a position paper as soon as possible po. But then when I browse under the Senate Bill 137 po, I look under the definition of terms on the disability. If we may use the definition of term under the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities po.
Oo, tama. Yun din ang sabi ng IP. Gamitin na lang yung recognized definition. So pareho kayo, yung UN definition na rin.
Yes po, ma'am. And at the same time po, baka rin po pwedeng ma-recommend na maging part po ng TWG ang National Anti-Poverty Commission, Person with Disability Sectoral Council, because these are represented by in all regions po of different types of disabilities po, coming from all 17 regions we have po in the Philippines. So yun lang po muna, ma'am, and for our position paper po, we'll give it to Ms. or to Attorney Dana po as soon as possible po.
Yes, not to worry, yung Anti-Poverty Commission, ay hawak ko yung budget eh. So sa susunod na buwan, ihihiring yan kasama ng DSWD. So asahan niyo yung suporta natin. Are there any further testimonies or suggestions or questions from the group present?
No one from the chat box, ma'am, has expressed their intent to speak again.
Okay, if that's the case, may I just bring forth a number of issues that I think have not yet been resolved. Unang-una, yung AFP-PNP, is there a stated explicit policy on non-discrimination for LGBTQ and others, as well as the IP? I think there have been repeated efforts here, even involving the height requirement, the entry in the PNPA, the PMA, and so on. And this was extremely controversial in the US with the don't ask, don't tell policy. What do we have in the Philippines that allows non-discrimination, particularly in Mindanao, with the present integration of the armed forces? So siguro, magtanong tayo sa AFP-PNP kahit position paper lang. Tanong lang natin kung ano ba ang sistema dun sa BARM. Dahil parati natin naririnig na discriminated against yung mga dating MI, mga dating MN, talaga hindi makapasok. Tapos may discrimination rin daw sa LGBTQ at maraming nagtatanong sa women's desk na kulang sa PNP. So kung maaari lang, let's get the AFP and PNP to comment as well as state the actual policy of recruitment and promotion. So Secretary, did you take note of the AFP-PNP query?
Yes, ma'am.
Secondly, there is an area of discrimination that we have not discussed, but which today has become far more important. I think there is mention in most of the bills of those afflicted with HIV. Meron pang iba pang diseases and other diseases ang banggit ng ibang batas. Subalit sa palagay ko, ang pinakamatindi ngayon ay yung COVID. Kasi talagang tinatamaan ng diskriminasyon yung mga health workers mismo na nagtataya ng sarili nilang buhay para alagaan lang ang may sakit. Sila pa ang hindi pinapauwi, hindi hinahayaan pumasok sa mga bahay-bahay at ayaw bigyan ng pagkain kapag pumasok sa kainan. So, ano ang tingin natin? Isasama ba natin yung COVID and other infectious diseases? Kasi very flagrant ang violation sa diversity and inclusion these days.
We will have to check, ma'am. I think there are bills that are pending regarding this matter as well, ma'am. Regarding COVID.
Yes,
specifically.
That's correct. I actually have a bill. That's been filed, but we've had no hearing from the Committee on Laws. It's actually been included in another COVID measure. But I am thinking that in as much as HIV occurs in the original bill, isama na rin natin yung mga highly infectious. Kasi hindi natin alam, di ba? Dumaan na tayo sa SARS, avian flu, MERS, tapos itong COVID, malay natin, baka tamaan na naman ng iba pang infectious disease. Siguro sakupin na natin sa isang pangkalahatang statement na eto nga, isama na natin sa health workers at pati na rin yung mga pasyente. Kasi talagang hirap din sila. Maski sumakay ng tricycle, hindi pinapayagan eh.
Okay, ma'am.
Oo, kahit ilagay na lang natin highly infectious disease, pwede na siguro yun, ano? or kung COVID kailangan talaga. Finally, I think there really has to be a look at the penalties. I'm most concerned about the penalties, not only the administrative ones mentioned by the CSC, but more importantly, the quite severe remedies that are stated in Senator Villanueva. Siguro pag-usapan na lang natin sa kanyang staff kasi prima facie finding may 20,000 na for every day. At mukhang mabigat naman yata masyado yun. Kung karinderya lang yan o kung ano. So, medyo grave lahat eh. Lahat ng penalties imposed to my mind, sa akin lang. With all due respect, palagay ko medyo parating grave ang kanyang ang kanyang standing. May alam naman natin may iba-ibang timbang itong mga penalty pero uniform itong grave. Kaya mabigat-bigat yata yan at 20,000 a day, mahihirapan naman masyado yung mga bata, halimbawa, na tinutuya o may konting bullying. Siguro ayusin natin ng konti at gawing angkop sa trabaho, gawing angkop sa employment. Also, I have certain questions that we need to clear up, like we mentioned earlier sa CHR and CIP. What are the legal and provisional remedies sa CHR? Nandito pa yung CHR. While a person is under investigation, may provisional remedies ba yung CHR kaya? Yes, Mr. Kaliba.
Madam Chair, we check on that po, no? I'm not from the investigation office, but we will inform right away the committee if there are in the meantime while the investigation is ongoing po.
Yes, kasi we're very concerned about that. Right now, the bills do not specify what those remedies might be. And it may be grossly unfair if someone is under investigation later to be proven not guilty, na in fact, wala naman siya magawa, hindi naman din tama yun. The other question would be, what is the quantum of evidence required to warrant these remedies? I think we will have to ask your legal ones again. Kasi yung quantum of evidence, hindi masyadong maliwanag. Kasi nga may administrative, may criminal. Ano yung maganda na ilagay dito para sakop lahat? Pero at the same time, tama naman yung timbang ng parusa sa ginawang pagkakamali.
Okay.
So hihingi kami ng tulong, Mr. Kaliba, para maayos yung penalties at may redress naman yung mga wrongfully accused.
Yes, Madam Chair. We will cooperate with other groups like the STDC. We agree with that on the penalties. Kung minsan it doesn't work, if it will be penal in character, the penalties are in penal character. There were studies that were also be given to us. We were informed that sometimes damages may be a better remedy rather than penal sanctions, Madam Chair.
Yes, I imagine so. In many cases, large corporations and even media enterprises are better punished financially than otherwise. So tignan natin kung ano yung pinaka-maayos na penal sanctions dito para maging epektibo to and not result in a counterproductive, unduly criminalized setup. Kasi ang gusto natin, talagang pantay-pantay ang pagtutukoy, ayaw naman nating kulungin at parusahan yung hindi nararapat. So to all of you, Dana, I think there's no further business. It appears that everyone has spoken except sa Samahan ng Kabataang Katutubo. Bigyan na lang natin siya ng pagkakataon na mag-submit at kung maaari, tulungan tayo na humubog ng mas magandang bill sa lahat. Any further comments or queries from the body?
Madam Chair, from the CHR, I just got this message coming.
Please.
Yeah, I just got this message from my colleagues. There are remedies if when the case is under investigation, CHR is offering witness protection services, number 1, number 2, financial assistance, and number 3, legal services po. These are the ongoing programs under the CHR when a case is under investigation, Madam Chair.
May witness protection din kayo.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, so if it comes to that, may witness protection. But in some cases kasi, di ba, very minor yung occurrence. So baka humingi sila ng tulong. Tignan natin kung paano tutulungan din ang naakusahan. So to all of you, thank you very much for joining us. We will try to collate all the statements which will form part of the record, as well as the position papers that have been submitted. All of you who have more comments, more positions, thank you so much for participating, and I hope to hear from you as soon as possible so that we can have a universal anti-discrimination law. Kahit yung iba't ibang grupo may gustong itulak para sa pansariling grupo, alam naman natin na maganda na rin na meron para sa lahat. Sabi nga, discrimination sa isa, discrimination sa lahat. So to all of you, thank you very much, and let's come up with the best universal anti-discrimination bill possible. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, everyone.